Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Sarah Smith. I'm a horticulturist here at Rogers Gardens. And thank you for joining the live stream. We're going to be talking about sweet peas today. This is the time to start getting ready for sweet peas. We got our sweet pea seeds in, which is really awesome. Really some super cool colors. Sweet peas are just kind of such a magical thing. It just is kind of that like feeling of spring is around the corner because you're getting them started when they're cooler. Sweet peas really are more of a cool season kind of plant. So we do really, really well with them at the coast. So a lot of times we're complaining about how cool it can be and we have mildew problems and this and that because it's so coastal, but what we do really well is sweet peas. So it's really, really amazing. They're very, very easy. They're not as complicated, I think, as people make them out to be. So I'm going to talk about some of my tips and tricks and show you some of my favorite ones too. So sweet pea seeds, that's what we have right now. We will be getting sweet pea starts in, and it will be from the seeds that we're selling. The sweet pea starts are probably going to come in around December or January. So they'll be in the little 4-inch pots and ready to go. Usually there's a couple of seedlings growing in each one, so it's a really nice deal. But if you want to get them started by seed, this is a great time to get your seed because we have a limited supply of these and we're already out of some of the colors, which is pretty amazing. So we get our sweet pea seeds from Rogers Parsons, so they look like this. There's no picture or anything on here, but we have this nice little really beautiful color chart that we made for you so you can see what all the colors are. These come from England, so they're imported here. They're not something you're gonna find just anywhere. You can buy sweet pea seeds pretty much at any garden center, but you're not gonna find these ones. And here's all the colors of them. They're picked for us by Steve Hampton, so if you're any fan of sweet pea, you know who Steve Hampton is. Steve Hampton used to work here. He still picks our sweet pea colors for us every single year. We have them grown specifically for us, so again, they're not something you're gonna find anywhere else. So it's a really amazing program, and Steve Hampton does the most gorgeous sweet peas I've ever seen in my life. It's so fantastic. He used to work here, and when he would work here, he'd bring bundles in because he just grows tons and tons and tons of them. They smell so good. They make a fantastic cut flower too. When you're starting from, so pretty much everything I've learned about sweet peas, I've learned from Steve Hampton. So if he's watching, hi Steve, thank you so much. But when you're buying your sweet pea seeds, a lot of times people back in the day used to either nick them with a razor blade or scrape them with sandpaper or soak them for 24 hours with boiling water. And there's all kinds of things that you hear people doing to get them started. You don't need to do any of that. That's something that we've learned over time that doesn't really need to happen unless you have really stubborn seeds. So what you want to do, if you're doing in little starter packs like this, we sell these great little jiffy strips like this. If you're starting them in here, I definitely suggest using a seed starter mix, something like this. I love the Malibu one. This is really super fantastic. It holds the moisture in and it makes it so it's not such a like big air pockets and things like that. So this works really, really well. When you first plant these in, you want to water them and wait just a couple of days. You don't need to keep them super, super moist because what you wind up doing is rotting them out. When people soak them overnight, that's what typically happens is the sweet pea seeds actually rot out. So you want to make sure that you're putting them in the pot and you're giving it a good amount of water and you're making sure that you're feeling the soil and the soil is moist, but you don't necessarily need to water it every day. So make sure that you're not watering it and keeping it super soggy. So it's not something that you need to actually do. If you put them in pots or say you even put them in the ground and put them in a place where you're going to start them growing, you need to pay a little bit more attention to that soil because that soil in the ground is going to be something that's going to drain a lot better. If you don't see anything come up in 2 weeks, poke around, pull those, see if you can find the seeds. If you can't find the seeds, you probably have a really well-fed mouse or a rat around because they will dig those out. So that could be part of the problem. I struggle with squirrels and they'll dig the seeds out. So I will poke around. If I don't have anything come up, I'll poke around and see if the seed is still there. If the seed is still there, I feel it. Is it mushy? If it's mushy, I overwatered it. If it's still very, very hard, then you can maybe scratch it a little bit with some sandpaper, but you don't need to go bonkers over it. They do have a pretty hard shell over them, but anymore, the varieties that we have are a lot easier sprouting because we kind of weeded out those difficult ones over time. So it's really seriously much easier than people think that it is. So typically I put them in the seed starters like this. I water them. I make sure that they feel moist to me. I don't want them soggy. And the little sweet pea starts come up in about 2 weeks typically. I don't really have a lot of problem with them not germinating for me unless I have old seed. I have a hard time throwing seed away. So I always put the date on my packets of when I bought them. And a lot of times once the seed starts getting old, then I have problems with them germinating. And then I'll try the nicking and with a little bit of sandpaper trick to that. But that's typically just because I have problems throwing seed away, basically. But once you have your seeds started, what you're looking for is a nice full sun area. So like right here would be perfect. I usually plant them on little trellises or nice little towers right in the middle of my garden because they want full sun. They want full sun all day long. They will flower really well. They'll start coming up. You'll start getting your first bits of flowers usually in January, and they'll go well into March. Especially the more coastal you are, the longer your flower season is going to be. The little more inland, it's going to stop. Once it starts getting hot, and we start getting that really hot spring feeling, that's when the flowers kind of stop. The only real problems that I ever have with mine is sometimes I will get a little bit of powdery mildew on my ones that aren't getting as much sun as I really should put them in. But having limited gardens, sometimes you put them in shadier spots just because we're greedy and we want as many as we can get. But I'll sometimes get a little bit of powdery mildew. With that, I'll just use something that has a sulfur spray in it. Just make sure you're not getting your all of your foliage or your flowers wet. Sometimes there's something that's called bud drop that we'll find where when the flowers first pop out, and it tends to be the first ones that you get, the flowers will come out, they'll start forming, and they stay very pale, and the flowers will fall off. It's not a disease or anything like that. Everything that I've ever read about it just is because typically we'll be cool, and then we'll have one weird hot day, and it kind of affects how they flower, but that typically kind of levels out over time. It doesn't seem to be a problem as they get older. So there's nothing you need to do about that. Don't panic. It's typically the new gardeners, when it happens to them, they start freaking out about it, but you don't need to panic about that because it's really nothing to worry about too much. The other thing is make sure you label your sweet peas, because the worst thing that you can do as a gardener, and I know this from experience because I've done it before, is that I'll put seeds in the ground, they'll come up, and I can't remember what the name of it or the variety is. So it's always nice to label them. We sell these really nice, cute little jars of labels. We have slate ones, we have all different kinds of ones. But labeling them is good, so that way if something does really well, or you just absolutely love the color, or you absolutely love the smell, you want to remember which one it is so you can plant it again next year. So make sure you label. And what a great little gift this would be. If you know someone who's getting into gardening, especially someone who likes gardening for cut flowers, because these are great for that, a great, perfect little gift right here. A little seed starter mix, some little pots, and my little sweet pea walking by. Come say hi.
Hi, Sweet Pea.
Look who it is, it's Suzanne. We are two different people, it's true. We are.
What are you talking about?
Sweet peas.
Cool.
What's your favorite sweet pea, Suzanne?
Kupani.
Yeah,
Totally
Kupani.
Kupani, but I did buy a bunch yesterday. I bought turquoise. I bought Mr. P.
I love Mr. P, that's my favorite.
Kupani. Oh, and I bought Black Knight as well.
Yes, Black Knight's great.
Going with a darker, like a bluey.
Yes.
But Kupani is just like, it's the old school. It's my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Carry on, Sarah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Suzanne. Anyways, yeah, these are the colors. So that one of the ones I really love is Mr. P. That's my all-time favorite right there. Really beautiful purple. And just like she was talking about, picking your colors kind of by a palette, because there's such a great cut flower. So you want to kind of pick different palettes so that way when you're putting them together, they all go together really nicely. So it's really kind of amazing being able to see all the different colors and kind of pick that way. But Kupani, this Mr. P, the Dark Knight, what a really pretty combination that would be. So it's just so fun. It's so fantastic. They smell so good. They're really easy. Trellising before you put them in the ground. The worst thing you want to do, again, and this happens with me with tomatoes all the time, is if you plant them and you don't trellis them and you don't cage tomatoes and you do it after you've planted it, and then you go to trellis them later and you break them. So you want to make sure that you've got your trellis ready to go, so your sweet peas have something to hold on to right away. So that's pretty much all the tips, really. You can grow them in pots. They do better in the ground, but a big enough container is okay. And just make sure you have a really nice trellis. The obelisks in pots and staged around in the garden does look really, really beautiful with sweet peas. So we have some really pretty ones right now too. So that is something you can do as well. Just make sure your pot is big enough. The biggest mistake most gardeners make is they do pots that are far too small. So you want to make sure it's a nice big size pot so they have lots of room for roots, so they have a lot of above ground growth and they stay really happy and they flower for you. Oh, the last one too. Keep your sweet peas cut. If you let your sweet peas go to seed and they grow the little thing that looks kind of like a sugar snap pea, but it's fuzzy, first off, don't eat it. It's not going to taste good. Cut them. Cut them and bring them in the house. Cut them all the time, because if they start going to seed, they will stop flowering. So that's the other big tip. So not only are they a great cut flower, but you need to cut them. So make sure you're cutting your sweet peas often so they don't go to seed, because that will slow down the flower production. And that's the whole point of them, right? So we are live and you can ask us any questions that you want. If you popped into this a little bit later and you weren't watching this live, you can always put your questions down below too, and we will do our best to answer those for you. So do we have any questions? So
yes, thank you, Sarah. The
Yeah.
first question is, what time of year do these bloom, like month-wise?
Okay, so yeah, we are getting them in the ground now from seed. We'll get the startlings around December, January. You'll get your first flowers depending on when you planted them. If you're planting them now, you'll probably get them in February. About mid-February is when they'll start coming. If you started them even earlier, you'll get your flowers a little bit earlier. But this is really the prime time to do it. So February through to about March. The more coastal you are, the longer you'll have your flowers. If you're really good about keeping them cut, the more inland, the quicker they're going to finish off. So they don't want to be too hot. That's the main thing. So when you think about it, we get these from England, so think about their climate. So they like it cool, they like it a little kind of damp and really fertile, nice soil too.
How many seeds do you put in one spot?
Yeah, so I typically do 2 or 3 because I want to see which ones are going to germinate for me, because sometimes you'll get a dud seed in there. So I typically do about 2 or 3. If you put more seeds in, like maybe especially when my seeds are starting to get kind of on the older side, I'll put some more seeds into like a little hole and I'll thin it out to about 2 or 3 starts. So I'll do like maybe 5 or 6. I have some old seed that I am planting this year, and that's exactly what I did. I did a lot more in that little pot than I normally would with fresh new seed, and I'm just going to see what happens if they even come up at all. I got them in 2017, and I just found some of my old seeds, and maybe I'll have some luck. I'm not sure. But when you're planting them too, you want to make sure you're planting them at a good depth. They want to be about an inch or so into the ground. They do not want to be shallow. Typically the rule is the bigger the seed, the deeper you plant it. And you'll see the sweet pea seeds are kind of big. So you want to do them about an inch down into the ground, and you want to sow them when you have them in your garden. So once you actually get them, so if you're taking the starts this way and putting them in the ground, or you're buying starts from us, or you're planting your seeds in place, you want to make sure that they're about 6 inches to about a foot apart from each other. If you have 2 in one spot, that works. So you don't want to overcrowd it too much, but you also don't want to have it thin. Honestly, thin sweet peas are kind of sad looking. You want to make sure that you have like a nice even wall. They're great on if you have any kind of like unsightly fence, like maybe even you have a chain link fence and it's in a full sun area. Plant sweet peas there, man. What a gorgeous like display that is. Steve Hampton's sweet pea fence is just amazing, and it's so funny. He's gotten famous in his neighborhood because people will walk by it and they just know this is the yard where all the sweet peas are going to be.
Should I soak my seeds in water before planting?
So again, earlier I was touching on that. We used to do a lot more soaking on the seeds, or nicking with sandpaper or even a razor blade. because the outside of the shell was known to be really hard to penetrate. Anymore, the varieties that we're growing, and it's because we've kind of weeded out those more stubborn seed varieties over time, they don't really need that. So if you're going to put them in a seed starter kit like this, you want to just make sure it stays kind of consistently moist. You don't want to overwater. The seed starter mix stays wet, because when you soak your seeds and then you put them in wet soil and you keep them really wet, it will rot the seeds out because they're not as hard as they used to be. So I say do not soak your seeds. Steve Hampton was the one who told me, do not soak your seeds. If you have really stubborn sweet pea seeds and you put them in the ground and nothing happens, poke around, see if you can find them. If you can't find them, something took it. So it could be warm-blooded or cold-blooded creatures that will take your sweet pea seeds. If you feel them and they're mushy, they've rotted. If you feel them and they're still very hard, then maybe I would just nick it with some sandpaper. I wouldn't bother soaking it. Just giving it just a nice little kind of brush on a little piece of sandpaper would just be fine. And you have more stubborn seeds. But with these ones, honestly, I don't soak my seeds anymore. I don't have to nick them typically anymore. Usually it's just because I have some older seeds that I had problems throwing away. It's basically the only issue I've ever had with germination.
Do you have sweet pea plant starters?
Not yet. So those are coming soon. We're hoping December, January sometime. We just received all of our seeds. Our seeds come from England, so they have to go through a pretty big customs thing. So they all come directly from England. So we have the seeds here now, but then we have them grown from these same exact seeds. So all the seeds that we sell now, we will get starts in. They sell out really fast. So if you're not on our email list, or if you're not following us on on Facebook or Instagram, definitely do so, because as soon as those come in, you want to make sure you come in and get them, because the worst thing is when you have some kind of color palette that you want to work with and you come in, you can only get half of that. So they sell out really quickly, but we will get the starts from these exact seeds. They just got them planted up probably December or January. Any other questions?
You mentioned cutting them. Can you explain that more, please? And when and where do I cut them if I want them to grow big?
Okay, yeah. So with the stems, these are pretty long stemmed ones, which are nice. So you'll have a nice long stem, usually a couple of inches or so. So you're cutting the actual stem. So as the vine grows, like so, you'll have a stem that comes off with the flowers. You cut all the way down to the vine point. You want your stem as long as possible, just to make it easy for you, for vases and things. And if you're just cutting them because they're starting to go bad, you want to make sure, and that means they're actually making the little pea, you want to make sure that you're keeping it from doing that, because if they start setting the peas, then they're not going to flower for very long. So just constantly keep them cut back. If you have too many sweet peas and you're overwhelmed, what a problem to have. Give them to your neighbors, man. Everybody loves them. Bring them into work. It's such a great thing. They smell so fantastic. They last in cut water vases for a pretty long time. So they're a really, really beautiful flower to have. But just always keep those stems cut all the way back. You don't actually need to cut your vine. You're just cutting the stems off so nothing goes to seed. Once a plant goes to seed, because these are annual plants, they think, cool, my job's done. And they don't set any more flowers because they feel like they've already set enough seeds. So you want to keep them from doing that, basically.
Are these seeds more for wet climates?
Well, they are an English seed, but they're really great for here. These are the same seeds we've used for a super long time. If you're really, really deserty, they're not going to be happy, because it's not necessarily wet climates, it's cool climates that they're looking for. So the more coastal you are, the longer your sweet pea season will go on. The more inland, the shorter your sweet pea season will be. Still totally worth doing though. If you're really deserty, they're probably not going to be super happy, because these do come from England. So think anything England coastal kind of going on. It doesn't necessarily need to be wet, just on the cool side.
Okay. Sorry, I lost that question. Can we buy them online?
I'm not sure so we'll have to put that down below, because I'm not sure if we have these online or not. Probably not. With the plants, I would say no. With the seeds, maybe. I'll check about that, and we'll put that down below.
Okay, that seems to be all the questions for today.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in. This is such a fun time of year. We are so lucky to be in Southern California. We get to garden year round, seriously. Most places are shuttering up and we're still going. We have tons of cyclamens. Our Christmas trees are coming in super soon. We have poinsettias. We have all kinds of really beautiful stuff. Helioboris, all of the bulbs. So if you come in and buy all of your sweet pea seeds, make sure you're checking out our bulb selection because we've had them for a while. Some varieties have already sold out, but it's a great time to do all of your paper whites and your amaryllis and all that great stuff right now. So we're just so lucky here to be able to do this year round. It's so great. So sign up for that email list so you know when the sweet pea starts come in. That's how you're going to know all that great information. Make sure that you're actually following us on Instagram or on Facebook because we post a lot of really great stuff there. This is where obviously where all the lives live, but we always post the new things that are coming in, gorgeous pictures of all the great photographers we have here at Rogers. Take such beautiful pictures of all the things that we have going on here so you can see what we have and you're the first to know about it. And then check out our YouTube page. We do really, really fantastic YouTube videos and they're there and you can go through all kinds of stuff. And I know there's some gorgeous, gorgeous videos of sweet peas, and Steve Hampton has quite a few different ones. He'll come in and do special things for us still, even though he's since retired. But he's like the sweet pea expert of Southern California, honestly. He's constantly quoted in articles and in magazines, and he's just so great at it. So I know there's tons of great information there about sweet peas and all other kinds of things as well too. So thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I'm Sarah Smith, the horticulturist here at Rogers, and be well and be safe and happy gardening. Bye.